Hey guys, welcome back for part 2 of Ice Cream Week. Yesterday we made our homemade ice cream no churn, which makes it so easy. Today we're going to make homemade hot fudge that's easy to scoop out of the container and totally pourable. It reheats really well. Tomorrow we're going to make homemade pourable caramel sauce. And then the next day I'm going to show you guys how to dip your homemade ice cream popsicles into that magic shell type chocolate so that it hardens. So you have at-home ice cream bars that you made yourself that you can add all the different little yummies you want into those. But for now, let's make that pourable hot fudge. We're going to start off with 2 cups of whole milk into your pan before we turn the heat on. You don't really want it too hot, scorching your milk ahead of time because that's just not what we're doing for this recipe. So get your milk out. We're going to do 2 cups of whole milk. Okay, so here is cup 1. Now, as I'm filming this, it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm in Arkansas and it is rainy and thundery and lightning. It's definitely not ice cream weather, but like, let's be real. I eat ice cream year round no matter what. Okay, so we added those 2 cups of whole milk and now we're gonna turn it to just a medium-high heat. So I go just like 1 click above, right in the middle. And then we're gonna add 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter here. Okay, so there's that 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. We've got a half of a cup of light brown sugar. So we're starting to get a little melty in there. And then we're going to do 3/4 of a cup of granulated white sugar. Sometimes you only have salted butter on hand. If you have salted butter on hand, you probably don't need to put the salt into this. That could end up being a little bit too much flavor. So if it's unsalted, add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to your recipe. If it's salted, just omit the salt altogether. So I'm going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of the sea salt because I like the flavor. So as you can see here, our butter is starting to melt. We've got all those delicious sugars and salt in there. So we're just going to go ahead and start mixing that up as it's warming up. And now I'm going to turn it up to more of a medium-high heat now that everything's in. So what we're trying to do is get this to a low bubble, not a boil, but a bubble. And we're going to let it bubble just a little bit for like 30 seconds. And what that's going to do is that's going to give our sugars a chance to get a little bit harder so it isn't a soupy sauce, but just a little bit thicker without getting too hard like a fudge. So we turn this up. We're going to get all of our sugars melted in there, all of it combined. Get that butter melted. There we go. A little steam coming off of it now. Now this is a really quick recipe. It doesn't take that long. We're mostly waiting for boiling time or bubbling time here. My husband actually uses this chocolate in his morning mocha. He loves the flavor so much. So I often make this during the week in the morning really quick before I get started if we're out. It stores really well. I just put mine in a mason jar and then he scoops out of it all week. And then it's also there for when I want a hot fudge sundae throughout the week. I mentioned it yesterday. My kids love vanilla ice cream, and that is the wildest thing to me because I'll eat ice cream in any form I can get. If all you have is vanilla, I'm going to deal with that because I love ice cream so much. But we go to the store to pick out ice cream, and they're both like, vanilla. And I will put, anything and everything I can get into there, especially when I make my homemade ice cream. I usually make a separate batch for them because I want to put crumbled up cookies or just like my soft serve. I have a caramel that's pourable. Sometimes when you put caramel in the fridge, it hardens. This is a pourable one right out of the fridge. So I put that in there so it's gooey caramel right from the scoop. And I have candied pecans that I make. So I sprinkle those throughout, or the Biscoff cookies, oh my gosh, or cookie butter. Pour cookie butter, and then you just kind of just give it a gentle mix. So it's not mixed in, but there's like big chunks of it. I could write poetry about ice cream. It wouldn't be good poetry. It would just be like, I want to eat it, but I could do it. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to go 30 seconds here. Okay, so while we're still stirring, we're going to add in a 1/4 cup. I'm using just semi-sweet chocolate because that's what I have on hand. If you have a nice like bittersweet or dark chocolate you wanted to add, you could do that too, but it's a 1/4 cup. And we're going to leave it on the heat. You don't need to turn it down. You want to give that a chance to melt. It should do it pretty quick because we're at a pretty decent temperature right now. So once those are melted, you're going to want to get 1 1/4 cups of cocoa powder. If yours has kind of gotten thick, it's been sitting there for a long time, you're going to want to sift that out so you don't have any chunks when it's in there. But we're going to remove this from the heat. And we're going to add that 1 1/4 cups of cocoa powder. Luckily, this one looks so fresh. The last one I opened up was very chunky. And I was already on my way to pouring and I did not sift. It ended up being just fine because you're going to mix it up, but it was a little bit sad. Okay, so there's 1. And then we've got a 1/4 here. There we go. So messy. And while we're still off a direct heat, we're going to mix this up completely. So at first it looks like it's not mixing. Keep mixing. Then it looks like it's just kind of sitting on top and like it's chunky. Keep mixing, and it will get you to a point where it's this nice, smooth, yummy hot fudge. Just like that. I don't know if you can see that proper, but it's perfect. So what you're going to do then is you're going to go back to your burner, and you're going to turn it back to a medium-high heat, stirring continuously. The last thing you want is to burn this. And once this starts to bubble again, you're going to let it go like 10 to 15 seconds just to make sure it's all really good and in there. Stirring the whole time. Okay, there we go. We're going to go 10, 15 seconds. Perfect. Okay, take it off the heat, turn it off, and then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla in here. I usually go like a half of a teaspoon, but I also measure with my own heart. It could be a little bit more. So we're going to add that after it's off the heat. Okay, there we go. I read a funny one once that was like garlic and vanilla are one of those things that I use for my own discretion, and it's so true. When I make something with garlic, like 2 cloves of garlic, I'm like, I think 4 sounds better, and same with vanilla. Okay, guys, this is done. That's literally it. So I let mine cool just a little bit, and then I store it in a mason jar in the fridge with the lid on. So set it aside and let it cool, and that's it. Let me show you the one I have in the fridge, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like once it's cool. So as I said before, I usually make like one of these a week, and my husband puts them in his coffee every morning for like a mocha. He likes this much better than the store-bought chocolates. So here's how it is. And when it's cooled and in the fridge, the texture of it is kind of like that of like a pudding. So you can easily scoop it out. It goes right on top there. I've made it with heavy whipping cream in the past, and it's definitely more like a fudge texture. You really have to scoop it out. And if you're going to put it on top of your ice cream, you really need to microwave it first. Otherwise, you're just putting kind of a hardened glob on there. So using the whole milk with it makes it this great pourable texture. As always, the recipe is linked in my bio. Make sure that if you don't have ice cream on hand, you go to my last video where we made our no-turn ice cream, and check back in later this week as we are going to make our pourable caramel and our magic shell ice cream. See you guys then.